The NFL's two best teams are about to collide. Hurts, he's sneaked, he's pushed, and he's in. Touchdown. Back goes Mahomes. He's looking. It's intercepted. Down the far side is the Gene. Is in for a touchdown.
Happy birthday, kid.
Mahomes is back. He fires over the middle, and it's intercepted again. And the Eagles are in scoring position again. He's looking. He fires. He completes it. Touchdown.
This offensive line of the Kansas City Chiefs flat out cannot block the Eagles' pressure.
Having this vision of just being the best that I can be, and that evolving over time into this desire and this flame inside to win.
The Philadelphia Eagles.
History is going to show the final score of this game was 40-22. That does in no way justice to how one-sided it was. Dominique Foxworth tweeted, he plays more like DeGene Cooper. Explain your tweet.
What does this mean?
I mean, he probably would have really enjoyed that. And I'm glad nobody forced him to play safety, which is what I expected them to do.
As a punt returner, he was Iowa's best offensive weapon. Lewis, I remember you and I talking at the draft that we were stunned he dropped out of the first round and that they were able to take both Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean that night. And quite frankly, a lot of the credit this morning belongs with Howie Roseman and the way that they reconstructed this team. But we have spent basically the first 20 minutes of this show talking about the Eagles defense, and I think rightly so. That was the story. We have not yet gotten to the offense and the MVP of this game, which was Jalen Hurts. Rex, did he prove anything to you last night?
Not to me, Greeny. I mean, shoot. I tell you where he proved something to me was the last Super Bowl. He was the best player on the field the last Super Bowl. I think people forget that. Like, this is a man who tag it. The other thing is he's got halfback skills at the quarterback position. I think he's a big-time player. And, I mean, no, I saw it the last, 3 years ago when he was in the Super Bowl, when he dominated that game. So, no, he proved absolutely nothing to me. All he did was play exactly how he did the last Super Bowl.
2 years ago, 2 years ago Wednesday was the first matchup between these two teams. Walking off that field, Lewis, I think we all felt like Jalen Hurts is the next superstar in the NFL. It's been sort of a circuitous route from that moment to this.
Exactly. Look, there's been some ups and downs since that last game, okay? And he has dealt with some injury. He's had a lot of question about whether or not he's a guy who, if you put the entire offense on his back, can he answer the bell? That's what Steve Spagnuolo wanted him to do. He wanted to prove that that game, the last time that they played, wasn't a fluke. Can you do it again? And for one, and he's finding number two. He's finding number three. He made one mistake in that game. One. And they tricked him. Exactly. They tricked him. And he didn't make another mistake the rest of the night. So, what he proved to me is that he's got super high football IQ, and he doesn't listen to anything that any of us have to say about him.
I thought Jalen Hurts was sensational. I thought his two best games have been the two most important games, the NFC Championship game and then last night. I thought he proved a lot of doubters wrong, myself included. He told a lot of us, again, myself included, shut up. And I think what's been undervalued, his growth at the line of scrimmage and his ability to get them in and out of plays. I mean, he sees the pressure coming from the top of the screen. He changes the play. Now, I want you guys to look at the defensive ends. One up top has his hand in the ground. One is standing up. Indicator that the one standing up is going to be the dropper. He knows the pressure is coming. Great block by Saquon Barkley. It's one-on-one, and Jalen Hurts has proven if you give him one-on-one downfield outside the numbers, he's about as accurate as anybody in football. Third down. Watch the motion by Devontae Smith. Defensive guys, you know this. You motion, we motion, you don't adjust. We know it's zone coverage. Now that ball has to come out of time right now. He's throwing the ball before Devontae's out of his break. That's in complete control. Ball's out in that soft spot. First down. Motion comes again. That safety's going to drop down. That indicates to the quarterback, I'm expecting man coverage. Jalen is going to give a trigger signal to A.J. Brown of like, hey, I want you to run the go route. We've seen the ball over the top. When he makes this throw, the corner's actually on top of A.J. Brown. That's why you got that back shoulder fade. And then the beautiful touchdown pass to Devontae Smith to basically seal the game was sensational. Look how quickly they break the pocket. This is a beautiful job by Kellen Moore. He understands, like, oh, the defense has blown the coverage. Ball goes to the right place at the right time. Listen, I got to give Jalen Hurts his flowers, man. He was sensational last night. Lewis said it. He had one bad play.
Dominique, I was just reminded as we were going through it, sometimes we go back to the origin story, if you will. He was drafted the same year as Joe Burrow and Tua Tagovailoa and Justin Herbert and Jordan Love. each of whom at different moments in time have gotten a lot more credit for anything than he has gotten. And yet of that group, of that draft class, he's the first one with that ring.
Do what needs to be done when it needs to be done. And I think the thing that was most impressive about him is the cool, the comfort, the confidence that he always seems to play with no matter what happens. And even after the game, he's still completely under control and composed. Like, I might have lost my mind yelling at the camera to tell everybody to go do things to themselves because you doubted me. So it was incredible. And I would say also that what made it even more impressive is that the way that I thought this would play out is if Jalen would have an incredible game if the Chiefs overcommitted to stop the run. They did not. They played a lot of middle field open coverages, and he still ate them up. They did play more man than I would have anticipated, but to Lewis's point, he was reading through coverages. He wasn't under a bunch of pressure, but he was reading through coverages, taking what was allowed to him, and it was a sensational game, I think is the right word.
So he gets the win. He's the MVP of the Super Bowl, and deservedly so. Saquon Barkley, certainly the MVP of their season from an offensive standpoint. He breaks the Terrell Davis record, even if he didn't run wild last night. But you were telling me in the car this morning, his presence, while you will look at the numbers, again, history will show the numbers. One didn't have a big night. You were telling me his presence was an enormous factor.
Oh, 100%. You could tell the priority of Kansas City was we have to stop Saquon Barkley first, and I mean first, second, third. That was the priority of the game. Look at the way they played. Kansas City played up front. You talk about they can't get a pass rush, right? We see him ripping through a run here. But they are playing flat-footed. Why? That's how you defend the run. Okay, well now all of a sudden, so you see these little carries like this, but all it's going to do is open up the pass. And so when you see the time that you guys mentioned that Jalen Hurts had being able to go through his reads, he was never uncomfortable. Why? Because they're playing flat-footed. They're not up the field rushing the passer.
To Rex's point,
makes a huge difference.
You don't want to have your D-line on different levels. And sometimes that happens when you're pass rushing. Is somebody will go further than the other guy, and that gives Saquon room. So this D-line was staying in unison and making it really hard for them to run. And they did that because of Saquon, which led to that great Eagles offensive line being able to give Saquon 5 yards of room all the way around him. And the Chiefs were essentially saying, bet you can't beat us. Hurts, and he did.
They had no other choice but to prioritize it that way. They had no other choice. I mean, Saquon was on a historic clip of ripping off plus 50 and 60-yard run. So what were they going to do? They weren't going to just play it normal. They weren't just going to get up the field and say, hey, look, we're going to treat Jalen Hurts like he is a dangerous drop-back threat, because he hadn't been. The offense had run through Saquon the entire year. But like we're saying, what Jalen Hurts did was he said, you're going to put it on me? You're going to say, let me beat you, and then he beats you, which now makes this team. That's why you're going to start having conversations about, well, is this team set up now for the foreseeable future? Because if the kid can play like this, you can't stop the offense.
If you told the Kansas City Chiefs that, hey, you're going to hold Saquon to like 75 yards rushing on defense, and you're going to get Philadelphia into a bunch of 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6s, the Kansas City Chiefs are like, this score would be flipped. We would have thought blow for the Chiefs. And the fact that Jalen Hurts, his performance on 3rd down last night was awesome. It was awesome. And it's interesting because you go back to the Rams game and the 3rd down checks that he got into running the football wise. Remember, his first touchdown run was a check. Saquon's long touchdown run was a check. And last night, multiple times at the line of scrimmage, he's just checking the defense out, changing the play, changing the protection, changing the route. In many ways, Kansas City had to be happy with a lot of what they did. Jalen just killed them for it.
Two of the things that everyone questioned Philadelphia about this year were what? Quarterback play and coaching. Those two things, they thought maybe that would be what would hold this football team back. Those two guys, last night, you had to be happier for those two guys more so than anyone. Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts.
How many quarterbacks would have gone into the tank after throwing an interception? As you've been doubted all year, you're in this situation. Jalen Hurts gets pressured into a very bad decision, and was a mess up by the offensive line. He throws the interception, and you look at his face. He looks the same as he looked before the game started and the same as after, and he went back in there and dominated the rest of the way.
Hembo just sent me a crazy stat. Quarterbacks who have scored 35 or more points in multiple Super Bowls. Joe Montana, and Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, that's true.
That's unreal.
The first game between these two teams was the first Super Bowl ever where both teams scored 35 points. The only one still to this point. Again, history is going to show the final score of this game was 40-22. It was by no means that close. We continue from New Orleans.